Good afternoon. My name is Robert Snyder. I'm the Executive Director of University Initiatives in the Dean of Students office here at the university, and I'm delighted to see all of your interest and enthusiasm for the Clinton Global Initiative University 2012, which, as you can see before you on the screen, GW will be hosting March 30th through April 1st. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit more about the CGIU student application process, which is the best way for students to become part of it. And I note that we have a few faculty members in the room, and we're really appreciative that they're here, too, to share the knowledge with their students. I'd also like to introduce a few members of our planning team. You'll be hearing from him shortly, but Steve Ehrman, our Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning. Also in the back, Peter Konwerski, our Senior Associate Vice President and Dean of Students. And then also Joseph Moran, who is, I think, helping me in the back, is here as well. So we're available to answer questions. And then I just saw Mark St. Hilaire from the Center for Undergraduate Fellowships and Research. So we'll be available afterwards as well to answer individual questions and group questions. I did also want to let you know that we're recording this session, so that way we actually can post it on our website, which I'll give you that address later in the presentation. So if you want to actually review this later on, and we'll also have the PowerPoint up there too, all great opportunities. Before I continue, I wanted to ask, has anyone in the room participated in CGIU in the past? Okay, there's actually about 9 or 10 GW students and now GW alumni who have actually participated in the past, and we're in the process of reaching out to them as well, and we'll be putting their information up on the website to actually, so that way you can reach out to them if you'd like to learn more. This is a really great opportunity for GW. I think it goes without saying that we're really honored to host Clinton Global Initiative University this coming year. A little bit of a rundown about what CGIU is all about. First of all, as you can see, it was established by President Bill Clinton, so it really does bear his name, his signature, and he's deeply involved with the program as well. It really is an opportunity, as it says here, from college students from around the world to address global issues and to take steps by making a commitment to action to solving those issues. And we really think that here at GW, this dovetails quite well with what we know all about you as students here, that you have a passion for changing the world. So we're really impressed and honored that you've come together to say, we want to make this commitment to action, we want to learn more about it, and we really want to express what we know already as a hallmark of a GW education. CGIU is not just an opportunity to make a commitment to action, but it's also a tremendous opportunity to learn and interact with really prominent speakers. We know that President Clinton will join us for CGIU 2012, as he's done for the past CGIUs. In past years, you can see that we had YouTube co-founder Chad Hurley and Olympian and Team Darfur co-founder Joey Cheek there as well. But it's also an opportunity to understand what the tools are from social entrepreneurs to actually take these commitments and actually make them happen. So it really is a phenomenal opportunity. And it's all going to be held right here on the Foggy Bottom campus from March 30th through April 1st. It will include keynote speeches by President Clinton and other featured speakers. It will include networking opportunities with social entrepreneurs. It will involve skill workshops. And it will also involve a service project here in the DC region. So it really is a robust opportunity for GW students to join with more than 1,200 college students from around the world in doing this project. So we're really honored to host it and delighted that all of you are interested in joining in. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce again my colleague Steve Ehrman, our Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning, to really talk about how this really what this means to the university and what this can mean to all of you as you pursue your education here at GW. Steve?
Thank you. I was just curious, how many of you are already thinking about a project area or a project, something that you might do? Wow. And how many of you are thinking this is a time for me to start figuring that out? Good. A good number of each, which is fine. You may get something from talking with each other. I don't know why, but there was a line from a college play when I was in college that keeps going through my mind. Friend of mine was in the cast, and I can just still see her saying, sometimes you just have to pick up a brick and do something. And although it was a comedy and everybody laughed at that point, it also reflected the sense on the one hand that there were so many things wrong in the world, and on the other, what could you do about it? And I think it's a sign of something having changed, that we now might think about Habitat for Humanity instead of breaking windows when hearing a line like that. The opportunity is important for GW. We're happy to have this university happen here because, as Robert mentioned, doing things, picking up a brick and doing something, has been an important part of GW students' education for a while. was one of the things that attracted me to come here. I'm just new to the university and arrived in July. We have a program of undergraduate research, and we're trying to do everything we can both to make the undergraduate research that some of you are already doing more visible and expand the opportunities for doing that. Service learning, some of you may have also attended the symposium for service learning that's been going on today with students making presentations about their projects. Of course, internships, jobs, student association. There are a variety of ways in which students can make a mark and do something that's real in the world. We think that's pretty important. One piece of advice I've got for you as you, before I turn this back to Robert, as you develop your plans for what you'd like to do, make sure you give yourself a chance to learn what it is that you have done. And that may sound kind of odd, but it's my experience in the world that it's one thing to have an experience, another thing to figure out what it is you learned from it, how other people benefited from what you did, how you benefited from what you did. And I hope in the conversations you've got, both leading up to writing an application, if you're accepted, and what you do during the conference, and certainly what you do after, that you give some thought to how will I know if I really helped people? How will I know whether the experience helped me? How can I explain to somebody else how I benefited from the experience? That'll go all the rest of the way to making this truly an integral part of your GW education. Good luck.
Well, thank you, Steve. And for those of you who are just coming in and standing in the back, we welcome you. There are a few seats up in the front row. We don't bite up here. We'd love to have you join us up front if you'd like, or you're welcome to stand where you are as well. You've heard a little bit about what this means to the university, but I'd like to give you the CGIU perspective, and this is a great video that they have on their website that we're going to show you to give you a sense of what this means for you as students and what this means to the nation and the world that this opportunity is coming to GW. So let me play this through, and then we'll actually walk you through what submitting an application for CGIU actually looks like.
Live at the Apollo, tonight, a revolution in youth activism begins.
Tonight we're here because young people today have more power to change the world for the better than at any time in human history. And that's why we're going to expand the idea of the Clinton Global Initiative to CGIU. I want to welcome all of you who've come from near and far, the university presidents and administrators, the leaders of student organizations, and of course the 1,000 students who are here from all 50 states and more than 60 other nations.
My name is Ryan Peterson.
My name is Chitan Kachuku.
My name is Michael Henderson.
My name is Keshav Rajagopalan, and I'm the student body president at the University of Texas.
My name is Uza Iwala.
We are from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor.
I am Richard Garassi. I'm president of Wagner College.
Hi, my name is Adenike Akins, and I'm originally from Nigeria, West Africa.
My name is Myron Roll, and I was one of the 32 U.S. Rhodes Scholars.
My name is Hugh MacDonald. I'm from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Last year we had the first Global Initiative meeting for university students at Tulane University in New Orleans. It was a deeply moving experience because they were still living in the aftermath of Katrina, and we did on the last day a community service project, clearing land in the lower 9th Ward.
You know, it's slow going, but as long as people keep putting attention on it and people keep coming down here and helping out and working on it, we can make it work.
You know, people are pretty down about the world today, and yet you seem to, from these young people, feel a sense of optimism. Why is that?
Because they realize that in any difficult time, there are always seeds of opportunity.
One of the best things about CGIU is it puts a lot of big thinkers together, and it inspires them to collaborate to actually create a better sum than the individual parts.
Last year, more than 1,000 commitments were made by individual students, student organizations, and universities and colleges. This year, with 1,000 students here, already more than 1,600 commitments have been made.
My name is Lucky Gunasekara. I'm a first-year medical student at Stanford Medical School, and my commitment is to make a CD4 diagnostic that is going to cost less than $1.
My commitment is to build a multi-purpose resource center where less privileged people of the village can go and have access to information technology.
They made a commitment to address the issue of rural poverty in Russia.
These farmers are smart, but they don't have the organization and infrastructure they need to succeed. So we wish you well, Vladimir. We thank you. And I personally believe you're on the right track.
People who work together generally do better than people who fight. People who build generally do better than people who wreck. People who learn generally do better than people who insist on remaining ignorant. And people who care generally fare better than the heartless.
And I think I speak for all the students that attended CGIU when I say that you can expect wonderful things from our generation. Thank you.
All inspired to go ahead and make a commitment today and to submit your application for CGIU. So let's walk you through a little bit about what that means. CGIU uses the term commitments to action, and that is actually your way of submitting an application to be part of CGIU 2012. Quite simply, as it's defined here, it means how to translate practical goals into meaningful and quantifiable results. There are 3 areas that CGIU is looking for as they're evaluating your application, your commitment to action: new, specific, and measurable. And it's very simple. Whatever commitment you're choosing to make to apply to CGIU must be new, specific, and measurable. Some more information about what that means to CGIU. New, it can be a brand new project, so something that's not been thought of before, whether by you or by someone else, if you can verify that. But it also could be an existing project, but with an element that's changed to scale it up or scale it differently. An example is, we all know that the American Red Cross does quite a number of blood drives, but could you work with another organization to do a blood drive? Could you address a specific population with your blood drive? Things like that. Again, it doesn't have to be brand new, but it must be new in terms of scaled up and new partnership and new opportunity. The next criteria that they use, specific. Precision and the reasonable scope of work. So you really must make it something that actually is very targeted and something that's very doable. You could actually say that you'd like to reduce the usage of water bottles worldwide, but why not say on your campus, for example, and make it very specific, precision, reasonable as well, something that's very doable. They're also looking for projects that are measurable. This should be something that can produce tangible, recordable numerical markers. So something that's not just say, we'll reduce it, but we'll reduce it by this much in this period. And you do need to be able to show as part of your application that you can actually do that within that number, within that time frame, within the certain period that they define, and that's actually all in a guide that I'll talk about. Some other pieces of advice that we have for you is that you should really look at social and environmental challenges on campus, in local communities, and in other parts of the world. I'm sure many of you are doing work in these areas, so think about the partnerships you already have, the organizations you already know about, whether right here on campus, in our backyard here in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, in your home areas, or somewhere around the world, and figure out how you can actually address a social or environmental challenge with that. You also want to try to keep it as manageable and concrete as possible. When we're actually talking to CGIU about what they're looking for in these commitments, they said to us that they're looking for commitments that are thoughtful yet practical, something that can actually be accomplished, not something that has just lofty goals that can't be quantified and directed. And as you're thinking about this, a commitment can be made by any GW student, any undergraduate student, graduate student, or professional student. So our doctoral students across the university, our MDs, our JDs, and all of the other doctoral students are eligible as well. And you can do this individually, or you can work together in groups. The one thing I will say about groups for purposes of CGIU, they define a group for the application process as 4 or fewer. So if you're going to work in a group, it does need to be a group of 4, 3, or 2, or you can do it yourself, although you can represent a much larger organization as well. So those are a few guidelines that they've given us, but the most important thing to know, new, specific, and measurable. And when you actually get into actually making your commitment to action, it actually asks you to spell out, how is this new, how is this specific, and how is this measurable? By making a commitment to action, you would be joining the more than 3,000 commitments to action that have been made since CGIU began in 2008. A couple of other things to keep in mind about commitments to action. They must address at least one of CGIU's focus areas. As you can see them before, education, environment and climate change, peace and human rights, poverty alleviation, and public health. It does not have to be just one of these areas, so it can touch on multiple ones or all of it if you have a really comprehensive project, but it must touch on at least one. And as part of the application, you'll also asked to show how it touches on at least one of these focus areas. So as you think about how do I make it new, specific, and measurable, how do I think about how to fit into at least one of their focus areas, think about what you're already doing. What are you doing in your classes? What are you doing in your student organizations, in your research, in your service, in your part-time jobs or your internships? What are you already doing that can be translated into new, specific, and measurable in one of these 5 focus areas or more than 5 focus areas? To give you a sense of some commitments that have been made before, here are some great examples of commitments to action. I'm going to pause for a second and let you read through these, and I'll also tell you where to find some more information about commitments to action in a moment. So as you're still reading, I just wanted to say these are just a few examples, and there are many, many more examples out there. So let me point you towards some resources. The first one, which is mentioned below, is called the CGIU Commitments Guide. And you may have picked this up coming in. If you didn't, Joseph will have copies in the back on your way out. This is a whole document that CGIU prepared about the application process. And the final pages are pages and pages and pages upon examples of commitments that have been made in the past. So you can get some ideas of what others have used and maybe build upon them to, again, make it new, specific, and measurable. You can also get this off of the CGIU website. You can also get it off of the GW CGIU website, which I'll talk about in a moment. A couple of other resources. GW, as you may know, made a university commitment. As much as we're focused today on making a student commitment, universities, institutions as a whole, through their presidents, can make commitments. And you may know about our GW plus phones equals hope campaign. And this is actually a copy, which we have in the back as well, of GW's application for that commitment. So you can understand how GW made this commitment to be new, specific, and measurable, and to address at least one of the 5 focus areas. So we give you some examples of what's already been done there. Another great resource, and this comes from CGIU directly that we have in the back, are some of the best examples that they've said. This is what they've said to us, made by students and student groups in the past couple of years. These are the best examples of commitments that have been made. So we have that for you too. And again, all of this material is also up on our website, which we'll talk about in a moment. And the final flyer that really does address where you can find this is actually a little bit more about the application process that I'll go through in a moment, but also all of our contact information, how you can email us, you can visit the website, you can follow us on Twitter, and just by signing in today, we'll add you to the CGIU at GW listserv so we can send up updates as we have more things coming, and also as we have updates to the website, you can get that too. So again, a lot of resources out there about what have been done already, and the best way to do is to read through that and then learn a little bit more. So you're ready to go ahead and make a commitment to action. What are the steps to doing that? What are the things you should consider? The first thing is to understand you're going to be spending a lot of time on this. You're going to put a lot of energy and effort into making this commitment to action, to writing it up. The application process is not just simply saying, I am this person's name, I want to make a commitment. You have to actually spell it out in quite detail. So you want to find something that you're passionate about, something that really you wouldn't mind spending some time on, not only making the commitment and writing it up, but actually working to implement. So you want to look at social and environmental issue areas and work with something that you really would like to address, maybe something that dovetails, as I said before, into your classes, your work, your service, your research, anything that you're already doing that you can connect with there. The second thing, as I've said in the second area, is what are you already doing in your academic studies and your extracurricular involvement and your skill sets to make a difference? What is your passion? Do you love working in athletics? Do you really like working with kids? Do you like working with technology? So build your commitment to action around what you really love, what you're already passionate about, what you're good about, because that will make it not only more meaningful to you, but that will make for a better commitment in the long run. So once you have your skills and your ideas outlined, you're going to want to work to develop a project that is new, specific, and measurable, as we've talked about already, and also one that fits into at least one of the 5 focus areas we talked about before. So again, new, specific, and measurable in at least one of 5 focus areas. A couple of other things. There are a lot of resources around you, and in fact, the best resource is sitting right in this room. Each one of you, you can work with your fellow students to consider what are some opportunities to make a commitment to action. Who can help me with this? So if you're involved with a community organization, or have an idea for a community organization, go talk with them and say, what could we do to improve your efforts, to extend your efforts, and how can I help with that? You could talk with your fellow students. As I mentioned before, commitments can be made individually or with groups of students working together. So talk to your fellow students, and I heard some of that happening before we got started. Continue that conversation at the end, especially if you have an idea and you're looking for some help with this. You'll also want to make sure that you talk with your faculty and your staff. We all know that you have great relationships in the classroom, in your student organizations, and in other efforts. Use faculty and staff as a resource. Ask them what they think, how they can help you with this, because they really do have some great ideas. And I would point out that there are several faculty members in the room today. So you can talk with them afterwards, and we'll ask them to raise their hands at the end as well as another resource. And I'll talk in a moment about some other GW resources we're making available to help you think through your commitment to action. And finally, in what capacity should I use these resources? Do I want to work with other students, or do I just want to seek others' advice on this? The one piece of advice we have, no matter what you're looking to do, is start early. Start today. The CGIU Commitment to Action application does take some thought and some effort to put together, and we'll talk in a moment how it is due in mid-January, actually the first day of classes for the spring semester for most students here at GW. You want to start today to really put together this framework so you have plenty of time to consult others, to use GW resources to make this the best commitment possible. We understand that you're coming into finals and papers and special projects and other things, so at least use the ideas now, get past the final exams, and then actually use the winter break productively, again, to make your commitment to action. So what are the resources that you can use as a GW student to put together your application, your commitment to action? First of all, you can talk with your faculty and staff, whether faculty and staff you know in the classroom, in your job site, your service sites as well. Some other resources that are there, I mentioned before the Center for Undergraduate Fellowships and Research. Mark St. Hilaire is in the back. You're also welcome to email fellcent@gwu.edu. We've put together a very impressive list of faculty from across the university that have offered to help out. So if you say, I have this idea in this certain area, or I'd like to get some more information in a certain area, we can connect you with faculty who have offered to help with your application and with your commitment to action. Again, another resource is the GW Writing Center. The Writing Center can be a great resource as you put together the language behind your commitment to action, to proofread it, to check it, because once you do submit it, it is final, and we'll talk about submitting it in a moment. And then, as I've mentioned before, faculty and staff with whom you already interact can be a tremendous resource if you have those ideas in mind. I also mentioned that we have a small group of GW students and alumni who have participated in CGIU in the past, so we encourage you to tap into their expertise, and we'll be putting a list up on our website at www.gwu.edu/CGIU of students and alumni who have attended CGIU in the past and who have said that they're willing to help you out. So it's a great resource that you can tap into. And again, all this information will be up on that website. We're building it as we speak right now. So a lot of other opportunities to actually get help. You're not alone in this effort. So now the big question, how do I apply? As I've said before, start early. Start planning today, start planning now, so you have plenty of time to use GW resources to help you. Once you have an idea in mind, or as you're developing your idea, you're also going to have to make a decision whether you make a commitment to action either individually or with a group, and that really is the starting point for making your application. To take a look at the application, you can go to the CGIU website, which is www.cgiu.org, and you can actually, there's a screenshot there, look through the different applications that are available for individuals and groups. The one key is it is essentially a Google form, so you're actually going to want to type in and define your application in sort of a Word document or other word processing document, and then copy and paste it in, because that is the way that they use as a form, but you'll want to make sure that everything is really perfect before you submit it. And you have until January 17th, 2012 to do that. That is the first day, as I mentioned, of the spring semester for most students here at GW, so you have the whole winter break before you to think productively about how do I use GW resources, how do I develop my commitment, how do I define it. Once you've then submitted an application through the website, CGIU will notify you of your application status by early February and let you know whether or not you're one of the 1,200 students from around the world who will be able to participate in CGIU 2012 here at GW. What I'm going to do now in a moment is open it up for questions, but I did want to give you a few resources. First of all, stay in touch. You can follow us on Twitter at GW_CGIU. We're actively tweeting out suggestions and reminders and opportunities. We'll be adding a Facebook presence shortly. And we also have an email address that's been pretty well used already, cgiu@gwu.edu. You can also visit our website, www.gwu.edu/CGIU. All the documentation I've mentioned today, from the PowerPoint to the video we're making of this, to all the documentation we handed out, will be posted there shortly. We'll also be having a listserv so we can send out information, but if you signed in today, we'll automatically add you to that listserv. And you can also be reviewing the FAQs, which we'll be updating regularly. So as you think of questions, as you have ideas, stay in contact with us, so by all means, we can share those resources with you. And first and foremost, we'd like to say good luck. So as we conclude our time, I did want to open the floor for questions. Because we are recording today, I'm going to ask that we go one by one, and Joseph will actually be carrying around a mic, so that way we can do that. So Joseph, I see a hand in the back row here, please.
When are most of these commitments carried out? So we make a commitment now, the event is a year away. When do most people actually carry out the initiative?
Excellent question. So when do you actually carry out your commitment? In reading CGIU's materials, what we're seeing is some people have as short of a time frame as I will carry this out in the spring. Others have said I'll carry it over in the summer or the following fall. The maximum time period, at least for the measurable piece, tends to be within 3 years. And if you take a look at that commitments guide that I mentioned, there's actually some more tangible information about the time frame. But the biggest point is, make it specific, make it measurable, because they're going to be looking when they evaluate your application, not just for something you'll do at some point in the future, but something you'll do by a defined date. And if it is a longer time horizon, you may want to set interim milestones along the way too. I think there was a question up here, Joseph. And again, thank you for using the microphone so we capture this on the video.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask, how will attending the conference aid us in implementing our projects?
Great question. So how will attending CGIU 2012 aid you in implementing your commitments? First of all, you're going to have the opportunity to network with students from all around the world. So you'll actually be able to share your idea and strengthen your pitch and actually make the case to other students to say that this is important. You'll also have the opportunity to network with social entrepreneurs. So people who have founded organizations. Like I said at the beginning, last year, one of the co-founders of YouTube was there. So you'll actually have a chance to meet other social entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs to sharpen it. And there will also be skill workshops throughout to understand how to sharpen commitments too. So it's very much taking your idea that you've already developed here at GW, you've developed it with GW resources, community partners, and then sharing your idea with other participants, other social entrepreneurs to actually sharpen, for better or worse, your pitch. And then also to have the skills to actually make that commitment going forward. Other questions? I think there's a question right over there. Joseph is coming over.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether you have the responsibility to monitor the project and then report back to CGIU after you've done it. Like what kind of obligations you have after the conference to report back about your project?
Okay. What are the obligations to monitor and report back? CGIU does track it. They set up some metrics and things along the process, but some of it is also on you as the responsible party to make that commitment, to really be the professional to say, I make this commitment and I'm going to carry forward with it. But you'll actually see in the application process, they're going to ask how you make it measurable and when you make it measurable. So they'll actually measure you against that too. So again, new, specific, and measurable in that way. Another question. Microphone's coming, and if it's not working, I can hand mine off.
I have a question about CGIU and what kind of resources they provide. Would they be providing any financial resources for implementing the commitment?
The question was whether CGIU will provide any financial resources to make the commitment. They do. If they choose your project as one of the best that they've seen, they do have some limited resources. You'll also want to be looking at other resources you can gain through the networking you would actually do at CGIU. And also think about some resources here at GW. Depending upon the nature of your project, the Service Learning, the Social Responsibility Grant Commission, and also the NAP Fellowship for Entrepreneurial Service Learning. And I know Melissa is here as a past recipient of that, are two other good resources. You could also be thinking about the entrepreneurship competitions here at GW, and there may be some external fellowships that the Center for Undergraduate Fellowships and Research could point you towards as well. So there are a variety of sources, but you will also want to contemplate as part of your application, how will I actually implement this too, and where the funds might come from. Another question.
At CGIU, will you have the opportunity to talk to other organizations, like, for example, Habitat for Humanity, or other organizations that can help you with your plan, or is it up to you to find them outside of CGIU?
First of all, you will find at CGIU that there are organizations that can help you develop your commitment, those social entrepreneurs I mentioned, and there are also resources beyond that. So it is a bit both. CGIU presents you that opportunity, that access to these organizations, but then also you take the initiative as the social entrepreneur to find additional resources that can help you develop too. That's actually one of the really best benefits of CGIU is the networking with other social entrepreneurs, both students at other universities, but also those who have already had some success in this area.
Hello, would it be possible to, when you apply for the program, to be an individual and then be part of another team? Or how would that work, being part of more than one team?
That's a great question. So is it possible to apply as an individual and as part of a team? Typically not. You do need to make that decision going in. Is my project something that I'm going to do as an individual, or am I going to work with a group on it? So they are going to look for an individual application or a group application. You can't do both with the same name. Other questions? Bless you. Again, there are a number of resources that we've made available to you in the back and also on the CGIU website. I'd also ask that the faculty members in the room maybe raise their hands if they're willing to just say hi. I see a few people in the back and in the way back. That there are some faculty in the room, so if you haven't connected with faculty to date, you can bounce some ideas off of this great group here. Also, Mark St. Hilaire from Undergraduate Fellowships and Research. That center, as much as it has the word undergraduate in its name, is available to assist all GW students with CGIU commitments. Steve Ehrman, myself, Peter Konworski as well, and Joseph Moran, we're also available to answer questions at the end. Any other questions? Can you apply more than once in a given year or overall? In a given year, it is, as we understand it, once. But if you've done CGIU in the past, you can apply again, but what they've told us is they do give preference to people who have been to CGIU, not been to CGIU before. But it's not impossible to say you could go twice, but you can apply once per year. Other questions? Well, thank you again for your interest and your enthusiasm, and please stick around and check in with us if you have any questions or ideas.